All right, greetings in the triune deity, whose we are and whom we serve. It's a great opportunity once more to be on the Threshing Flow Helpline. Of course, that's how we do it. Thresh your anxiety. And this is the International Pentecostal Assembly hosted here by Bishop Esther Batiste. And of course, you already seen who is in the background joining us in studio this evening. And wherever you are, you're coming home from work, you're driving in your car, you're on the road still, walking, whatever your means of getting home. We trust that you'll do so very quickly so that you're able to join in this discussion this evening on the Threshing Flow Helpline. And you know we have a window of time, and because we have a window of time, we are going to expedite the process. We're going to expedite the process, and we're going to start discussing this evening on, we want to talk about the next generation, saving the next generation. And this is going to be a discussion that we are beginning now because of, all of what has been happening recently. And even today we have, the private primary school sports and a lot of sporting activities coming up. This is the next generation. And of course, all kudos to the athletes from the different school. Of course, those of you who are champions, have won your races, you have done well in your divisions. We congratulate you. Of course, the teachers as well, all those that are working hard behind the scene, the facilitators, the stadium officials. We want to say, congratulations to all of our nation's children who are engaged in the sporting activities. And of course, we have other sporting activities that are coming up, and they have done it on the new resurfaced tracks. I'm telling you, I was there to pray over the track, and it's a beautiful, beautiful work that has been done in the resurfacing of that track and field. My goodness. And they're trying to complete the other part, the training one, so that when the games come, that they will be able to do a fantastic job here in Grenada. So we champion all of this. So we're talking about the next generation, and we have two young people, right? Pretty soon they're going to be branching out on their own in their program, but we have them here on the Threshing Flow Helpline this evening. We're going to be talking all about saving the next generation, because we realize in our society today, in our construct today, our young people are just deviating. And with all of the bad news and the sad news that we've had in the recent times, and the tragedy of our young boys, our young men becoming victims of these kinds of atrocities, these kinds of crimes in our country, we have to have a conversation. So let me bring on my guests. They're not new to the program. In fact, they've been here before. So we're going to introduce them, and then we're going to begin the conversation this evening on saving the next generation. So I have in the background, I have Sadie Cado Batiste. You can call her Sadie, of course. And you have Jenny Perman, and you can call her Jenny for short. But we're here in the studio this evening, and we're talking the next generation. So I'm going to have them just, give an introductory statements, comments, as we delve into this topic this evening, saving the next generation. So welcome, ladies.
Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone who's looking and listening.
Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Just sit back and relax. We have a lot of great things to say and to talk about.
Great. And of course, we want you to join in with us this evening discussion. Send the link to someone else. Share the live. We're on Facebook as well, YouTube. And of course, you can listen on your radio device, because this is going to help you. Parents that are out there, mothers, fathers, are going to help you. I know some of them would have grown. They're young. They're pretty young, but they would have grown up grassroots, yes, with the grandmothers and the mothers who really played a key role in instilling some of the values and etiquettes that they now live by. So we want to talk about, you know, all growing up and what was that like for us. I know for me, I had to go to church. It's not an option. And here my, today. But, and of course, we, as they start the conversation, we really want to focus on Proverbs chapter 1. Proverbs chapter 1. And of course, I will ask, Jenny to read it for us, because we want to use that as we share some important tips and information, even for parents and young people out there, that they can live their best life. You don't have to succumb to society's trajectory of them, but they can live their best life. So she's going to read that for us.
Okay, so I'm reading from Proverbs chapter 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of every one that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Because I have called, and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil.
Great, great. And this is a wonderful passage. Very, very succinct. passage here relative to instructions to, and this is a king really giving that instruction. So we have the instruction, we have the call to heed wisdom. We also have what can happen when that wisdom and that instruction is being refused. And we talk about the simple and the foolish and those that are unwise. And then the calamity that comes. So, we have three dynamics of it here, right? And of course, we're going to be talking about what it is, to despise instruction, to be disobedient, to follow companies and bad companies that lead you into a snare, and we're going to be discussing those, right? So we have the simple, we have the disobedient, we have the unwise, we have, all of those that are categorized by the ones that are running away from instructions. And of course, we're talking about that in context maybe to our own experiences and what we are seeing in society. Because, Jenny, Sadie, they say, this kind of children that reigning now, that's a phrase that are coming up in most, circles. This kind of children, this kind of generation that's reigning now, they hazy, right? And we can identify with that, We're seeing those of you that are on the line. We're seeing you, Pastor Susan. Big up to yourself. There in Canada. God blessings upon you. But yeah, we're seeing a different breed. Some people say a different breed of children. So what do you think about that? Yes, go ahead.
Well, for me, where should I start? The first thing for me is the way children locked into the things that we didn't have. So, like now, children have iPad, they have tablet, they have all devices. They even have their parents' phone, and they will be locked into this thing for hours. My thing is, I believe that parents give them this stuff so that they can be quiet, like get them distracted from things, I want to clean the house, let me give them that tablet, so I will get my house clean. I want to go in the shop and come back and give him the tablet. I believe that parents literally going to go all to Grenville and come back, and this child will still be in this iPad right where you left them. The only how they will come out from that iPad is if the battery is dead.
And they go on and get another device.
And if it's dead, they cry.
They take yours.
And they run another device. That's one of the things, the main, not really the main, but that's one of the things that really touched me a lot, because we didn't have these kind of things. We didn't have tablets, and then we have TV, and then we have antenna. We didn't even have cable. We had to go outside and turn this thing to get the station, to get to put it in the right area. So once it's set on the left or the right, not south, east, west, we know. Well,
good reception.
We will get a cartoon. But they have it, they have it all, and I feel like, it's kind of distracting. Mm. And as parents, we need to kind of wind down on that.
So as Pastor Susan here is suggesting, the different parenting styles.
Sure.
When we were growing up, we grew up in a Christian environment, of course, but that does not mean that we wasn't mischievous and we didn't do all kinds of things, that we didn't try to break the rules and so on. But let's talk about how our parents of yesterday, or yesteryears, if you want to say it like that, parented their children. And we know when we were growing up, it's not just your parent, it was an entire community of people raising children, because you couldn't disrespect Miss Mary down the road and Miss Ann up the road and Mr. Frank down the road. You couldn't pass and don't say good morning, or what time of the day, say a greeting, and you have to be courteous. So what alluded to that in terms of and some of you, even if you're young, you get a little piece of grandma, and you get a little piece of your mom, right? Your dad. So let's talk about how those are different to today's, right? Yesterday, when we, as Sadie said, we didn't have all the luxury of the computer and the internet and all of the luxury of, facilities at home. We had to go tired, or goat or sheep or something before we go to school and things like that. So let's talk about that. What experience you have there?
For me, Bishop, I think it's all about the foundation. So now, the foundation that we would have had growing up, a lot of the children now don't have it, because we see lately we have a lot of teenage pregnancy and all of these things going on. And if you don't have the basis, then you cannot pass it on to your children. And like Sadie was saying, we allow, a lot of the parents now, they allow the technology to raise their children for them. So you won't find children like going outside and playing and doing all of these things that they would have done like when we were growing up. So everything is technology. So like they say, the generation of the smartphones and stupid people. it's sort of like that, because ask a child to a simple math, no, and they have to go to a calculator or so on. When we growing up, you would learn your tables, you would learn simple basic things. They are not taught these things now. Sure. And a lot of children now, they don't even know about God to start with. Mm-hmm. They are not taught about God. They are not brought to church, or coming to church is a choice for children now. True. Whereas growing up, I had no choice but to go to church. Yeah. And where we live is like, once rain falls, it's like muddy. And then you would have to put on probably like an old shoe to go on the road, and then change when you go on the road and so on. And I remember an elderly lady in the church, she used to tell my mom, she used to say, because my older brother and I, we were the ones that really were rooted and grounded in church. My younger brother and sister didn't grow up like with it that much. And she used to tell my mom, she used to say, listen, she said, I admire you, because rain, thunder, lightning, you're bringing these children to church. We had no choice. And to me, that is something that we need to go back to, because children, your child can't just wake up and tell your mommy, I don't go into church today, or I don't feel like going to church today. Okay. I mean, because when it comes to school and other things, they can't tell you that. So why are they given a choice when it comes to church? Mm-hmm. You understand? And because they don't have that foundation, then a lot of children grow up not knowing who they are. So they depend on friends, they depend on the world, because if you don't know who you are, the world will tell you who you are. Mm-hmm. So you have to instill that from them from very young, bring them back to church, bring them back, as we will say, back to basics. Yeah. So then they can grow up, as the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. Because I grew up in church and I did backslide at a point. But once it's instilled in the foundation,
you gotta come back.
You would come back.
Yes.
You could run as far as you want. You will come back. So you just have to bring them back to that point where we instill certain principles in our children and make God the foundation.
Great. I hear you, Dr. Anthony. Thank you. I hear you. But Lady Sabi is also saying, before she's asking me, and of course we don't have all the technicians today, right? But to put up on the screen, but she's saying, when your mother tell you that you're not going outside to play, would you cry? Would you cry? Well, I mean, in those times we went outside to play. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference with now. Children are not going outside to play. Of course, we have to do all the little chores. We have to wash the wares. We have to make sure that we do our work. Yep. It's work for us, and perhaps we have to run away to go outside and play. Really, it's a disobedience. We have to really literally run outside, because once you're home, they're going to find something for you to do, and they'll complain and say, child, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, because you had to work. Work was important, getting your hands and feet down on the ground is a very important thing. But today, children are literally inside. Yep. Whole day, you're bringing breakfast at them in their bed, they're not coming outside except they're going to school or something like that. But the way staying in the sink, the floor unmopped, The dog ain't even getting fed, much less he don't even have a sheep. So, we have to look at the way that parenting styles. I mean, of course, it's different now. We don't expect that we stay in a generation. But if we look at our text before us, ladies, right? And we're digging down into how the different ways that we're seeing children behaving now than then. Because, of course, then children used to behave bad too. They used to be teenage pregnancies. They used to be all of these ACUs. But there was something that was different in terms of our culturing, in terms of our socialization, right? Because we have a society now that's very uncivil-like, right? And of course, the internet is paying a price for that too, right? So days have changed, as somebody says. Miss Joseph has said that times have changed. We do accept that. But let's go back to see how it has changed. And we're looking at our text here. And this is a text that had been written in ancient times, far way back in the time of King Solomon. But he's calling his children, his son, right? In fact, he's using wisdom as a personifying wisdom. And wisdom is calling, somebody come and get me now, It's crying out in the street for somebody to get wisdom and to get understanding. So it's wisdom and understanding, because wisdom really teaches us how to live, how to behave ourselves, right? And he wants to give wisdom to the simple man. Well, it's just a euphemized way of saying the foolish man, right? So he says, hear and increase in learning. This is why you're giving you this instruction, so that you can hear and increase in learning, and you will have understanding, right? And you will attain to wise counsel. So, right? And then he says, starting with the fear of the Lord. So I think Jenny alluded to that when she said, we had to go to church, right? And it was difficult to go to church where she was, but she had to go, right? So the fear of the Lord, let's talk about that. So parents in our time, they had a great fear for the Lord, right? Let's talk about that.
Yes. As me and Jenny were speaking about that slide before we came in, we were saying, this generation, no, they don't fear God. I think God has been so good, and he has been, forgiving us, We do things and he forgive us. So we take that for granted. That's what I think it is. And parents back then, they took Christianity so serious, and they took God so serious. It's like they didn't want to mess up. You understand? But because we this new generation, we see, God forgiving. So we just feel, we could be out in the world, we could mess up, we could come back, and then we could just go back out there, like nothing ever happened, and feel, it's okay. But it really and truly is not okay. And it kind of bring me back a little to when we finish school. Like you come from school back then, you come from school, and you walk in the street and you see Miss Donna. You can pass Miss Donna straight, and you have to tell Miss Donna afternoon. And you have to make sure Miss Donna hear. You have to hear she say, she have to hear you. Yeah, she have to hear you say, good afternoon, Miss Donna. Because if Miss Donna don't hear that, it's some pinch. It's some pinch you're getting from Miss Donna.
And when you go home.
And still when you go home.
Child, I didn't hear what you said.
That's the thing, and that's the difference, because then Miss Donna would pinch you,
yes,
and you're going home and you're not saying anything,
no,
because you know it's the next pinch you get.
Yes.
But no, if Miss Donna pinch you and you go back and tell your mother, she go down and cuss out Miss Donna.
Yes, my mother go down call Donna and be Donna.
You're going down in the school, don't hit my child.
Yes. Exactly. Teachers can't even hit children nowadays.
It's so different, so different, and these children get away with so much thing that we couldn't even try. We couldn't say we in washing. We can't say we in coming and help cook. We cannot. We dare not. We have to do it. It's not even an option. Saying no is not even an option. Mommy ain't going to church this Sunday. We have to go. Because when we go, we have to come back and tell her all what happened in church.
Sunday school.
Yeah, what happened in Sunday school, what they preach and what they say, when is prayer meeting, what time, everything you have to come back and say. It's not like no children lying outside the church, they eating, they doing all kind of things, everything distracting.
Yeah, when we were in church, you have to sit in front, and you couldn't look back and gaze
No,
in the back.
it is
You
sit
know,
down
your ears will
straight.
be on
Snap
fire.
finish.
Yeah, your ears will be on fire.
Yes.
Or when you
have
get
to,
the look, when
you have to
the
get the
look,
eye.
when you get a look, you know what time it is.
Yeah, we couldn't skylark in church. We couldn't, beat around the bushes. It was
No.
hard. It was hard. I mean, we got a lot of licks with broomstick,
Camera whip.
camera whip, anything they put in their hand,
Yes.
pot cover,
Rolling pin.
rolling
I
pin,
guess a
anything in
broomstick
your
already.
hand, you're getting the blow. I know. Remember, my mom used to say, when she has a lash for you, she want to give you a lash because you're being disobedient, do something you're supposed to do. She will tell you, pass in front of her, pass.
Yeah, just pass.
Right? And when you pass, you're getting a thump in your back, you're going into your stomach.
And you're
You
pelting
have
right
to
up.
pass. When you're done, you're vomiting, You're bringing up everything that you eat in your stomach. But I mean, it was hard discipline. Agreed, right? Go ahead.
And then before, like we would say, our parents are abusive. But then, when you grow up and you look back on, how they grew you up, I thank God for all the, what I call abuse. I thank God for it today. Cause
Yes. And today they call it abuse, and I feel like that was the best way for me. Well, it kind of was
We didn't
really
like the
harsh.
licks. We didn't like the
kind of
licks,
harsh,
really.
but it did work out. It kind of build us. It make us strong. It was good. It was good. Because these days children don't get licks, and if you get licks, they go by the police, and the police.
True.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and I
Yeah.
feel like back then, growing up, the training and stuff that we got, it was really, really good. That's how some of us want to cook and bake and do, so much. It
because
was
you
really
would
good.
hear a lot of people saying, well, it don't make sense beating children. Licks are doing nothing. But it does instill discipline in you.
Yes, it does.
It trains
It
you a lot.
does.
Yeah, and Lady Sabi is commenting again. We could put that one up. She said, I think part of the blame goes to the parents. Of course, our parents was intentional in transmitting the values, right, that they've learned from their parents. And I think generations, that is a very key thing, the transmitting values. They didn't have the internet and cyberspace, and they didn't even have books and all of that, access to good books and so on. So they tell stories. That's why we grew up with a lot of Anansi and the Spider-Man and Bear Rabbit and all of that. And those, as witty as they were, they teach values of honesty and not be greedy and selfish and all of that. The stories they had morals, they had lessons in them that we can take with us, right? Like Anansi would always be a greedy person, filling himself first before he can think about other people. So they tell it in stories, but today we don't have the parental stories. We have Tom and Jerry who teaches us that you get a whack on your head and you could just get back up and, shake yourself and go back up. But today if you get a whack, you're certainly not going to get back up. So parents is responsible. Let's go there. Let's go there. Because the values that our parents taught us those are hard lessons, I'm telling you. You have to learn not to steal. You're getting licks. You have to learn not to be dishonest. You have to learn to be respectable. Say good morning. Say excuse. Thank you. Please. All these mannerisms, they instilled within us, but we're getting licks. And the licks had to remind us to behave.
That's right.
Right? So let's talk about the parenting as opposed to now, as we already alluded to, that modern day parents. And why do you think that there's a distinction between those before and those now? Parents, that is. Because Solomon says, okay, I am teaching you this wisdom. I am calling wisdom. I want you to fear God. So we know that our parents fear God because most of them went to church. In our time, most of the people within our community, they went to church. At one point, they would go to church, or every Sunday they would go to church, even if they're living like the devil in the ghost of the week. But they go to church. There's a special fear for church and a reverence for spirituality and a reverence for God. But we're not seeing that now. So we need to flesh those out in your time and in our time now. So anybody could chime in. Anybody could could say what are some of the things that were different. We already spoke of some, but we want to kind of qualify. So the God factor, right? You have to go to church, or you had to go to Sunday school, right? Or you had to pray, or you had to read your Bible. You got to learn verses, right? Those were the God factors. You're in church, you stay in church. You don't say, I'm going out and pee, I'm going out and, right? I'm going out and eat a snack. No. You have to stay there. It's always 3 hours. You stay down there for 3 hours. You can't even go use the toilet, right? Somebody said, actually, nowadays, the nurturing of children is becoming poorer and poorer. So why is that a reality? And some people look back at our parents and say, nah, these people are cruel. They were harsh. Abusive. And in some respect, they were, because I think one of the things I realize with our older folks, they grew up hard. It's a hard life, right? They go sometimes in abstract poverty. So the little one loaf of bread that they come home with had to share for 13 people, 14 people, 15 in some cases. I think 16 was the highest at those times. 16. Right? And that little piece of bread, that could be the pound of saltfish, got to share for everybody in that house. So they grew up in like abstract poverty. So are you saying we should go back to poverty levels?
Nope.
Because those are better days.
The strictness and the discipline was back then was really good. Like we learned like it was working. But no, I don't know. I think the parents we get computerized and we look at the internet too much and we want to be like, we want to be like everybody
icons,
else. Yes, we want to follow the Americans and the people out there, and we fail to realize that these people is paid to do these things, They get paid by doing what they do in the act and stuff. And we need to realize that some of these things they do are demonic, and we don't even realize that. So we need to know, and we need to sit down and understand that certain things we just don't do, and certain things we just don't say and have, exposed to the children, because it's really, really bad. The things they say, the things they do, the body language and everything, you just know that this child always on the internet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you have a situation when we were back in our times, and we're not saying we're old, right? But we're saying back in our time when we grew up with that generation who nurtured us. So I believe we are that mid-generation that if we do not transmit what was transmitted to us, we'll have an even worse scenario with this next generation that's coming up, because our parents transmitted it to us. They did what their parents did, right, to them, and instilled within them. Every young boy had to go get an animal, go out, tie the animal, see about the animal. And I never understood it until I was old, why, they had to take care of animals. It was training them to become responsible fathers.
True.
Yeah, because if you have a dog, you wouldn't leave it out to get sunstroke, I'm telling you. You wouldn't leave the sheep out to die. You're going to go every morning, provide for that sheep, tie it out, come back in. And so we had pigs, we had goat, we had sheep, we had chicken, we had the whole works. We had even a donkey, we had cows, so our cattle. So basically, the environment was different, because they tried to teach us so that they can prepare us for parenting, right? So the young girls had to make sure they know how to wash wares, do domestic chores. You used to say this way: you had to wash, you had to cook, you had to starch iron, you had to do everything in the house, right? Because the women were the ones in charge of the home, and the men went out and do the hard work out into the field. So those were the divides. So every young girl has to know how to cook. They have to know how to clean a house, take care of a house, right? Wash clothes, right? All of us, we had to do that. Even if we had to go to the river, down the river, and do it on the river stone, and we're happy for that because we could get to bathe after. We had to wash our hair in the river. But folks, we grew up grassroots. We know what it is to grow up grassroots. Right? And to live in that abstract poverty Any of you experience that kind of level of poverty, you know, where you had to go outside in the fireside and cook, and your eyes burning you from smoke, you know, and you had to light candles in the night? Talk to us.
Yeah.
And those of you that are joining us on the platform, tell us about your experience. I mean, you can even call in and tell us about your experience going in living in poverty. I mean, most of our parents, they have to do subsistence farming to have a little something to send us to school. You know, we have to go do farming too, because that's what giving us food on our table. That's what sending us to school. You know, so they had it really tough and difficult. So let's talk about how tough it was, but still, they try to teach us those values. And somebody said the children are making children. That's a reality. No, we don't really have adults making children. So that's one of the factors, right? It's children, teenagers, as Jenny was saying earlier on, teenage pregnancy has become even more prevalent. You look, I mean, I've been christening children in the recent times, and like most of the babies that have been dedicated come from young people, young boys, young girls, right? And they're raising these children. So yes, that's a great point.
We have a comment here from
Yes, go ahead.
Sabi. She said, so true, Bishop. Just wondering how we can really teach our children to be responsible in these times, since most homes may not have goat and sheep to tie out. True.
That's a good point. So we don't have goat and sheep, but we can have goat and sheep. Instead of giving a child a tablet, you know, give them a responsibility to do something like an animal to take care of or something like that. It gives them, it allows creativity, right?
Or even like starting
solving problems.
kitchen garden or something, you know, so at least they get hands-on in doing something instead of depending solely on a tablet or a phone or whatever it
Every
is.
Sunday we had to bake bread.
Yes. Give them something domestic in the house. Let's make bread. Let's make food every week. Let's learn how to cook cuckoo. Let's learn how to do rice and peas. All the traditional things. We don't even know how to, I don't even know how to, my mother used to make all kinds of things with mayok and cassava and so on. And to be honest, I don't know how to do cassava. But I mean, I know to do other things. But those things, you leave it to them because you know these are technical things to make, right? But my mother she would do everything. My mother was an industrial lady. She will cook, she will sew, she will make guava cheese, she will make all kinds of confectionaries. She will make bread, everything. And they taught themselves to do that because that was like empowering yourself to get a little money, you know. She used to make stuffed dogs. We have to go and sell them and all of that. So you have to teach your children the different skills. So instead of giving them a tablet, let them sit down, watch SpongeBob, watch Tom and Jerry beat up on each other, learn how to be violent, learn how to this kind of challenge, and this challenge wasting a set of food. All you need to do is to give them something that they can do. You know, like my daughter now, she wants to be a business person, so she makes like cookies and she bring it to school and sell it, right? She bags it, you know, she seals it, everything, right? Now she used to do gummies, so she's learning things, right? And she's all there, say he's cooking. She wants food. She wants to make this and she wants to make that. So take them out of the room. Because, of course, they will be engaged in the environment where they're learning and solving problems. I never understood how important it is. We used to walk almost 2 miles to get to school and back. And we had to go home for lunch and come back. So 4 times in the day, we pace in that road, right? But I never understood that while we're going up the road from school, we're picking mangoes, we're hunting for this and that, berries on the side of the road. But it helps us to solve problems as we go on. But now you're going to pick up your child in school. As they step out of the school, they step into the car. And you give them the ride home, and they don't even know how to solve problems that are in the environment, right? You learn by just walking the street, going up the road. And you used to think, wow, children, they're dangerous, boy. They go get bungs down in the road. They ain't getting bungs down, right? And they're not getting sick easier as well. Right, so let's talk about that. You know, the difference in parenting styles. Maybe more luxury is what's beating us, boy.
Yep.
But of course, we have young teenage mothers now, so that's the next thing. They have not even fully developed themselves, but they now have to care for children, so they don't have the values that we have. Somebody's commenting. You want to read that one, Jenny?
I don't think teens are making so many children as before. I think they are sexually active at a younger age.
That's another problem too, because of course they don't want the children because they can't manage them.
Nope.
Because even if the teens have them, they have to send them to the mommy have to take care of them, granny have to take care of them. I've seen a lot of grandparents bringing a child to school. Where's the mother? The mother had to work, right? So the grandparents now have to pick up the slacks. So that's a very great point that are done. They are botting them too. They're sexually active. They are bottling them too, right? They're getting rid of them, and that's another tragedy, right? So Solomon says, we get back to our text, right? What will happen to the man who does not heed instruction? So he says, my son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. And this is coming from a context where these are good instructions, because we have some parents, they teach their children to curse, they're teaching them to smoke weed, they're teaching them to smoke cigarette, drink rum, right? We're not talking about parents who will be slack when it comes to moral values, right? Because once you're smoking alongside the child, that child is going to, by virtue of association and by virtue of modeling, will just smoke too. Yeah. So there's another comment here.
I grew up with my mother, never seen my father until I was 16 years of age. Only today I told my wife I will do everything within my power to make them happy, but I am not happy. My parents failed me.
So you see that, and then we have a lot of these situations here. What do you say about that one?
For me, so I believe too, and I was getting at that, the way some of the parents speak to their children is because they're dealing with hurt, like things inside, like they never had a father, they never had their mother, they had to find it for themselves, and then they grow up with, anger and rage and all of that, and they just don't know, like they really don't know how to speak to their children, how to deal with their children. And also, where some will do better, they will try not to have their children, feel the way that they felt when they was younger. They will try to change. So it have like the both sides, you have the side where I am angry, and they have the side where I am going to do better. I don't want my children to be, in the situation that I had.
Right. And the need to better what you, so you didn't have clothes, you had to make sure your children get clothes, you
and
didn't
shoes
have
and all of
luxury of food. Yeah.
It's all about the mindset too, because you would see a lot of generational things continuing, because a lot of parents has the mindset that my parents didn't have that and I didn't get that, so they just stay in the same, within the same mindset, and they don't do anything to change that. But then as you were saying, there are some that would say, I grew up this way, and I know how it was difficult for me. I know how I felt. So I am setting things straight so that my child or children do not have to go through the same thing or experience the same thing.
Right. And then you have outside of the parents, you have also the influence of friends and peers and society, right? Because when you go back, because there's some parents where they try their best, they bring the children to church, good, godly parents. They try to teach them certain values and morals, and they do their best, right? So we're not saying throwing the baby with the bathwater here, right? But we're saying that consistently there's not a overarching attempt across the board to really intentionally raise our children with the morals and values that we ourselves have been brought up with, right? There's another comment.
True, Sadie. Hurt people grow up to be parents who may also hurt their own children if they do not experience healing and deliverance. We really need God's intervention.
True.
Right.
Like the saying goes, hurt people hurt
people. Yeah. Yeah. Because, when you look back even at our parents, they were hurt too. Because, some of them, their parents didn't even say, I love you, right? They don't even know what love is, right? And they didn't even have, the parents love you. They put food and so on. They said it in other ways, but they never said it
Oh, yeah, they don't know
you
to
know,
express
vocally,
it.
right? They never say, I love you, you know, you're going to do well, you're going to attain to this. You know, our parents will make sure that we go to school. We had money to go to school, we had an education. So, I mean, two things that our parents really did for us that today becomes a legacy in our life is one, that moral framework, and two, education.
True. And then as Sadie was on the point of parents being hurt, like because a lot of parents are dealing with a lot of things and then back then a lot of parents would keep certain things a secret. They would not discuss certain things with their children.
But it's not
So
out there.
these parents would grow up with that hurt and so on, and because they kept it inside, they would tend to pass it on their children. So sometimes they tend parents asking children, you're stupid, or you know, you're very stupid, and all of these things. And then sometimes we wonder why children act out when they are at school, but that's the way they release their hurt as well, because of what is said to them at home,
Yeah.
or how they are treated at home. So they go in school and they become bullies and all of
That's
these
it.
things because of what is going on. Because you know we see children, you know, misbehaving and doing certain things, and I mean, well, something wrong with this little boy. But when you really go back and you really understand why he or she is acting out, you know, and sometimes like a little girl, she may be molested at home and she does not say anything. She just, or maybe because she's threatened, so she does not say anything, and then she becomes promiscuous. And then, you know, you hear people saying, oh, she doing this, that, that. But, you know, you do not know what
she's
people are
dealing with.
facing, what they're dealing with at home. So sometimes, you know, it's best to find out instead of just judging or just jumping to your own conclusion, because people really deal with a lot of stuff. And then sometimes, too, yes, parents bring you to church or whatever it is, but then when they're in church, people need to be true to themselves,
True.
because when they're in church, they're one person,
True.
but when they're at home, they're somebody totally different. And then the children are seeing that. A lot of parents, do as I say and not as I do.
Do.
Children are
Yeah.
like sponges, especially at a tender
Everything
age,
is so
and they
home.
would do what they see, even
True.
if they don't do it home. Because some parents, they might tell you, oh, I hear your child there and amongst a bad word or whatever, and maybe like my child, and they're cutting the neck on a
Yes.
block.
Yeah.
But when children are around their friends and all of that,
True.
you have
They're
to,
different.
yeah, you can't put your neck on block for children. I mean, there are times, as it said, as the saying goes, charity begins at home. So, you know, you try as best to instill values in your children from home. But then, as I say, you have to be true to yourself as well. Because you can't be pretending to be, oh, you're so godly and you're so this and that in front of people, or when you're in church or whatever. And then back home, you're showing something totally different, because the children would grow. People, oh, well, how said the mother bringing her to church every Sunday, and that woman is such a nice woman and all of that. But then at home, I tell him, said, you know, Dolema, you know.
And it comes back to what we were speaking about earlier when we say you could fool everybody around you, but you can't fool God.
Yep.
True.
Yep.
You know, so we have to be careful.
So that
what we
kind of
put
that
out there.
double standard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this kind of double life, double standard, because as Jenny said, you got to be true to yourself. You got to be genuine, because children copies.
Everything.
We live in a copying kind of world. We copy as well, but especially children, they are sponge, as Jenny said. They soak in and soak in and soak in, and then they improvise.
Yep.
Then they repeat what they would have seen, the dominant male in their life, the dominant female in their life. They mimic those behaviors. I one time I was going up the road in my car, so I see this little boy, and to me he had something between his fingers. So you see the car now, he run to the side, you know. So I stopped where I saw he ran, and I said, "What do you have there?" Right? And then immediately the Holy Spirit said, "Don't blame the child," because he was pretending to take up those little boots from the cigarette, and smoke it and light it. And I say, my goodness. And the Holy Spirit said, don't blame the child, because I this is a child I see all the time with his father. And this father all the time has a cigarette in his hand, or a beer in the other hand. And the little boy, especially little boys, like, you know, they don't seem to have a brain of their own. But little boys, they will just mimic that. And the little boy was just trying out and experimenting with what he sees his father does. Right? And so that's important point that you make, that parents cannot live double standard lives, right? Principles and morals got to be consistent with who you are, right? Because they act it out in other environments that sometimes they get in a lot of trouble, right? Because schools does have to pay for it.
Yep.
And as Jenny was making the point, I think it was Jenny or Sadie was making the point that when they go to school and you see them misbehaving and they're problematic for a teacher, you bring them in the principal office, you blows them, you give them licks, you come back tomorrow, they be even naughty again. Every day is a problem with this child in the office, whatever. And you don't go back to home, the home environment where they're troubled. Maybe they're abused, right? Maybe they're neglected. Maybe their parents died, right? So there's a number of factors, right? So we know parenting is one factor where you have to be intentional. And Solomon here was intentional in his teaching his child. He says, follow instructions, right? Because they're going to be like ornaments of grace on your head. Verse 9, we in Proverbs chapter 1. Ornaments of grace upon your head and chains above your neck, right? And he says, my son, if sinners entice thee. So we're looking at the enticing thing. Sinners or your peers, your friends, peer pressure, right? If they entice you, do not give in to them or do not consent to them, right? If they say, and this is what they're going to say, boy, come with us now. Let us go over here. Let us go and stick up a man. Let's go and stick up the supermarket and thief from the supermarket. Let's plunder the supermarket, and then we go put all our monies in one bag, and we're going to share it when we get away, right? It says, or let's go, because when you go and steal, it's enticing him to go and rob, to go and steal, right? And then when you do that, you're going to shed blood. And unfortunately for us, this has been a reality in our country, right? And lives are at stake because people decide, I'm going to go and do this or that. And of course, they put other people's life and curtail people's life shortly. So they said, let us wait for the man. Let us lie and wait in the dark, in the look in the dark, so he doesn't see us. I'm just paraphrasing, right? And then we're going to do our thing, and we're going to be able to get some money, right? So let's swallow them up alive, right? So he said, what's going to happen to them? Because they want to go after substance. They're going after their own gain. They want to fill their bellies, right? They shall fill their houses with the spoil. So they're taking all your stuff. They're plundering all your thing, right? And he says, if you obey people that entices you to do wrong, right? And a lot of young people now, boy, you got to have a boyfriend. You got to have a girlfriend. You're stupid. Yeah, what? You know, they're making you feel all kinds of insecure because every young child, and sometimes age 6 and 7, even before that too, you see children, sexually active and so on because you have to have a boyfriend, you have to have a girlfriend. Secondary school children having sex on, in tongue. They're in a sporting event and you go on to the back of the stadium and here is this. There's one time they say one of the young people, they were having sex right on the bleachers there. I mean, these are things that are concerning and very sad, but they're enticed also with friends, right? They're enticed with the music that they're listening to. Not so? Even those sport icons, sometimes we go to the sport field, we go to the cricket, football, and after the games, then guys would have their, case of beer, 6 case of beer, 5 case of beer, and they're celebrating because they win the match. And the trophy is, have yourself a beer, have yourself a drink, right? Sometimes they get the hardcore rum too. And these young children, the trophy is after you get the games finished, then you can drink. That's what the men do. That's what the boys do. That's what, that's what manhood is like. And they copy it. That's influence of friends and peers. How have you been influenced as a teenage person?
Sometimes it's not necessarily like persons would influence you or advise you to do certain things, but sometimes just for the fear of missing out, you
Right.
think that you need to do certain things. And as I always say, nobody can make me do anything that I don't want to do. And you see a lot of people, like our grandparents would always say, friends bring you go, they don't bring you back. Because a lot of persons, they would do things and they'll be like, oh, well, she made me do it or he made me do it. But nobody can't make you do anything that you don't want to do. At the end of the day, somebody can encourage you to do something. They can tell you to do something, but they cannot make you do it. It's all about choice, and it's the decision comes down to you. So it's just, and then, it's just about, and it all goes back to parenting, to teaching your children, because a lot of children as well too, sometimes when they can't get something that they want at home, then they go, they steal, they do all of these kind of things. But if you instill in your child, listen, not everything you want you would be able to get. You understand? So when you instill that in your child, then they know not everything I see I have to get it or I should want it, and then, as I say, some of them, yes, you may instill certain values in your children and they'd still go ahead and follow friends and do the wrong thing. But a lot of parents don't instill certain values. And some parents know, like, you would see a child come home with something and it's not theirs, and you would not encourage them to bring it back.
Nope.
Or ask them, well, where did you get that? Or who is this? Who does this belong to? But they would allow the child to keep it. And a lot of the children go into school and they steal stuff from other students, and the parents don't even send it back. They don't even call the teacher and say, well, I see my child came home with this. Who does it belong to? Or whatever it is. So it all starts at home.
Truth.
With the parents. And like I say, instill values in your children, because when you instill these values in them, they would not easily be deceived by friends or fall for everything that their friends tell them.
That's a great point. And folks, if you're just joining with us, we're winding down, but we're here at the Threshing Flow Helpline here with Sadie and Jenny. Of course, they are members of my church as well, young people. And they're also grown up grassroots as well. So they understand the in-between generations, right? And we're talking here on the discussion of saving the next generation. Because, of course, sometimes we beat on them, but they have so much external factors. So we have cyberspace and the internet they have to keep up with, because you have to keep up with the Joneses. If my friend has a cell phone, I can't come with a little half-dead something. I have to get the latest style, because, I can't line with the clique, because
I don't
want to look poor. Right? I got to have it. I got to have the latest style. I got to have the nice shoes, and sometimes my children, when they ask me for certain things, I say, well, I don't have, or maybe next time, they'll get flustered, because they figure, well, I got to have this, I got to have that. But sometimes you have to teach them delayed gratification, right? Because we grew up with hand-downs.
True.
When your bigger one, your bigger sister or brother, the shoes can't fit him anymore, you grow it.
Yeah.
That's how you get in your pair of shoes. You don't say, let's go buy Payless. You spend $200 on one shoes. Yeah. And some of these children want certain shoes. They have to break a bank to get
and
it.
then the thing is, some of them, they want, yep, they are. And
Very
then some of them, they want,
manipulation. That's a good point.
Every event or so on that they have in school and so on, they want a different outfit, a different shoe, and all of that.
We had one jeans for everything.
I don't recycle.
Sometimes the fortunate ones, like when they see you with you, they'll ask if your outfit is road match, because it's just the one exactly.
One shoes, when you go to church, one shoes every Sunday, one shoes until that shoes.
High shoes for church, high shoes for tongue, high shoes for fair, high shoes going on, and the full dress. Jenny, I go in fair with full dress, and everybody have on their jeans.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to adjust it because it's big for you. Yeah. So you learn to improvise, you learn to share. In families too, you had a lot of fights, you had a lot of quarrels, you had a lot of things. But you say instilling the values, so you teach them respect for other people's properties. True. You teach them, how to be honest. Don't steal. Don't be dishonest in how you represent piece of information. Where have you been? Me, I didn't go any place. I went roaming down the road, right? And we used to try those tricks. We used to try all those tricks. We used to try all this thing, but I don't know, they used to figure it out. You pee the bed, but you want to blame your sister, right? Because you don't want to get leaks. You had to put on the mattress to dry. You had to get it to sleep on. And so we try tricks. We try to be mischievous, right? I remember getting real licks because I tell somebody at church, something. I didn't tell her something nice. But I just call her name. I say, "Yo, Jezebel, you." I get so much licks for that and vomit. I tell you, I can't disrespect, And then children now, you're passing by the road and the barrels as loud as and D and but, right? You're going to town in the thing, and you see a child, two children, in a compromising condition, one hugging each other, and you're just at the pass like they're invisible. You cannot even tell them, "Hey, children, go home." Getting your shot coming out, they're stripping you and put back on your clothes because. So that's the thing, that's the thing.
Nowadays are just different.
They're special.
Because even
let me say special.
Even
that's different.
They're special.
Because even before, as Bishop was saying, sometimes you're passing and you might hear a child cuss a bad word. And they see you and they might hold them out or, they're shocked.
Sorry, but not anymore.
They're watching in your eye and they're letting it go. I remember one time my mom and I were in Grand Dance and there were some school children and mother this, F this, one after the other. So my mom was like, "Hey, all you see me here?" So our little boy says, "Sorry, miss." The next one said, "No, we didn't say we blind."
Bishop, another thing to my grandmother used to always say. She used to say, "A liar is a thief, and a thief is a murderer. So don't thief and don't lie, because when you lie, it leads to thief, because you always have to come up with a story or you always have to back up something,
Yes.
So she used to always say, a liar is a thief and a thief is a murderer, and they mustn't like money. When you like too much of money, she used to say, when you like too much of money, little boy is going to go with you. So these are the things, kind of help us a lot, it really helps.
They give us the stories, right?
Yeah, when you think about these things, I don't want to go in jail, I don't want to be a thief, I don't want to be a killer, and all these things, but now it's really different.
Back then as well, you would hear your parents or your grandparents telling you, "I'm not your little friend." But nowadays, all parents and their children, most parents and our little friends. And I'm not saying that you cannot be a friend to your child, because you should have that relationship with your child where your child is comfortable enough to speak to you about anything. But when you're dressing together, going to parties together, having alcohol together, your child is really not your little friend.
So they have to know where to draw the line. You have to know where to draw the line. You have to know your boundaries. As children, I see some comments there. Let's take them. As we wrap up, as we wind down. This is a great conversation.
I turned to alcohol because it's what I knew.
That's what you knew.
But my problem was not alcohol. The problem was no one to talk to, even in church today.
Wow.
Bishop, that's a very good point.
Yep.
Because today, when we're stressed and we're going through stuff, all we do is drink. That's a very good.
But it's not just about drinking. You can't confide in certain. You can't confide in certain people.
True. Yes. Not only that, and then sometimes too, you go to this person and sometimes they may not have the best advice, because sometimes the advice people give you, something. Sometimes you get a better advice outside there, like from some strange person than somebody you're close with. Sometimes you get the better advice from that person.
It's true, but then I think one
risky.
It is. I think one of the things is the church and your brothers and sisters in Christ.
Yeah.
So the church supposed to be like a safe haven. I'm supposed to tell you something that I'm dealing with, and it should stay between us.
Right.
But you see, people don't even trust to tell certain people certain things, because I may have confided in you, and I may have heard Bishop talking about it, or somebody else talking about it. So instead of when I should come now in the church and I could go to Bishop or I could go to you and speak about something that I am dealing with, because we all have issues that we are dealing with.
True.
So that's why a lot of people turn to alcohol, or they stay they're still living in
Isolate
certain
you too.
habits. They're still living in certain habits. Because when I come to you as a sister or brother in Christ, and I expect you to encourage me and, maybe pray with me and all of that, and then, maybe sometimes you don't give the right answer as you say.
Yes.
But even if you don't have the right answer, but you listen and it stays there, then you can trust to speak to certain people. But when you feel like you don't have anybody that you can talk
Trust,
to,
yeah.
then you go to the alcohol and
That's
you go to
right.
doing what you're used to doing.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And we have to begin, and that raises a point of community. Because sometimes when you don't have the adequacy of the parental or the familial construct, that is where you need community. You need other stakeholders in the process of raising children. You need the lady down the street. You need the schools. You need, your peers and friends. So you need community, right? Of course, if the family breaks down, if the family unit is not ideal, and we have a lot of this, but we want to encourage parents, even young parents, right? All the internet, everything have knowledge too. So you go search up the right thing, how to parent my child, how to, encourage them to learn and expose them to different atmosphere where they could choose the right things. Because Solomon is saying to your son, you have to choose. He's telling him all the different options that are there. So I think we have a final another comment here.
People sometimes do things outside of their character or nature for the sake of fitting in. At the
Yes.
end of the day, everyone wants to feel a sense of belonging.
That's a good point. That's a good point, right? So you try to see if you can, fit in, because we have a need for belonging and companionship, and that's a very fair thing,
Yeah.
right? But as Natusha is saying, you have to be your brother's keeper, and we have to look out for each other. And we have to look out for our nation's children, right? Because if we don't inject, sometimes we have some guys up by my side, and sometimes you got to go out literally and say to them, no, this is not how we live in a society. This is not how we have to respect each other. We have to value each other, and we have to show that we all can coexist. I may not necessarily do what you want to do, but you have to make sure that you respect my individuality and I respect your individuality, but we are living together. And we have to make some compromise, right? Right?
Ms. Pearl is saying,
Set standards, right? Go ahead.
yes, you need to set standards and boundaries with your children. They need to know what time it is.
Yes,
and at the
ma'am.
same time, building solid relationships is that you are the first option to come to you.
Yes, of course, of
Yeah,
course.
they could feel
And I
a sense
like
of
this.
comfort.
I love this. We have to set the standards and the boundaries. Because Solomon says, if you do not listen to what I'm saying, you're going to find yourself snared in a trap. Okay? You're going to be trapped. You're going to find yourself, let me just reference it here, right? He says, so you see, their feet run to evil, right? And they make haste to shed blood. Right? It says, surely in vain is the net. All right? The net is spread in the sight of the bird. So you're going to find yourself in a trap. And you're going to be snared really, really bad. And to lay wait for blood. Right? They look privily for their own lives. Right? So he says, so are the ways of everyone that is greedy for gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. So he said, wisdom is crying in the street. He utters her voice. So we're saying to young people now, he says, how long, ye simple ones, would you love simplicity? And his scorners delight in their scorning. And he fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. And to reproof means that you show somebody the error enough that they will understand that this cannot be repeated. All right? They know this is a bad thing. You explain it to them. And I think our parents teach us discipline in the sense of punishment as a deterrent. But at the same time, you have to correct, right? You have to correct. So you show them, sometimes you have to model the right response. So for example, when my children, I would tell them, no, go read something for me or go do this. and they're vexing up their face and they're crying and they're thinking. I say, go back. Go back. Now fix your face. Now change the attitude. Because a disobedient person, you could be sitting down where you're disobedient. I say sit. You sit down, but you're really standing, right? So I take them and let them remodel back the correct thing. So now say it again, but say it without the attitude, or say it again, but this time don't be crying, or don't be frowning. So you have to kind of train them. Yeah. That's what the Bible says, train the child, because you're telling me as if you expect them to know it, but you didn't tell them how to do it.
True.
You see? And so some of the things I do, like with my own children, I'm modeling it back. So I say, go wash the wares. So they're taking a good time and they're washing the wares. Then I go back to and say it again and then go my way. I ain't coming and cry. Go and wash the wares. And you're crying and beating up yourself. No, they have to wash the wares. So when they go, they wash the wares. If they don't wash it properly and whatever come back, they do it properly. Right? So you model it. I've had to do that a lot of times because my intention was to again teach them the right thing, because I realize you have to teach, not just reprove. Sure. Right? So you beat them and say, you shouldn't do that, you're lazy, what have you, right? But now you're giving them the responsibility. So now you wouldn't sit down in a dirty room. This is just, and I don't want it to make it as if it's just punishment. To show them the value. If you're in your own house, if you're sitting in a dirty room, you're compromising your health or everything else. So those are the things that we need to encourage them. Not just because children have to obey your parents. I is the mother and I is the father, right? But you have to give them the principles of why do you obey this. If I give you some licks on your bottom now, I'll save you from when the police had to take you up and whip you and put you in a prison. Small punishment, but you understand a greater if you continue the behavior, it will lead to greater punishments. So these are the things. A child likes to go bad, or don't go that bad or the cuss. No, child. Hey, that's that to be the last time I hear that word from your mouth, and give them a good word to say, get a better adjective, that they can say. So as we wrap up the session today. Right, this is a very good discussion. I think we need to continue that kind of discussion, because we're seeing that even in some of the cartoons, they have demonic contents, they have LGBT content, they have violence, they're filled with violence, they're filled with making our children lazy, antisocial, because they don't want, you're in a sometimes even when we go to a little family function and we outside, everybody had a gadget, everybody on their phone, and they're asking you for the internet, and if they have a password for the internet, like they can't function, they can't enjoy the time. And sometimes when we go to a sibling with my siblings, we just really enjoy ourselves telling all the old stories, the jokey stories when we were small, and it's fun. It's like you go home, your mouth in your ears because you're smiling all the time. Your teeth hot, right? Because you're having fun in that outside space, in that social space. That's why they're a lot of distressed children. That's why they're facing a lot of issues. I mean, young children telling you they're stressed out and those kinds of things. I mean, so as we wrap up, we want to be able to leave something with our audience today, and we really appreciate those that are on the line, joining with us and commenting and so on, sharing this, because we need to inject within the next generation, right? The values that we have learned. And Jesus said it this way. In fact, he said in Deuteronomy, it tells us the how that we should teach our children. But first of all, it tells us that we should love God. You can't teach people what you don't know. Love God with all your heart, all your soul. You can't transmit what you don't have. Right? If you like to drink alcohol, that's what you're going to teach your children. If you're hooked to nicotine, you're going to teach them that. Right? So you teach them what you have. So first of all, you got to love God. Love God. Right? With all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. That's what Deuteronomy 6 says. Right? It says now that you have to follow the commands of God, the laws of God. You have to know that too. Read your Bible instead of giving them Tom and Jerry, SpongeBob, or the Help Me This cartoons, Cocomelon, whatever. There's super book. right? There's good cartoons that teaches them value. Don't read to them Cinderella and teaches them how to do witchcraft to hold a man, and to marry a man. Don't teach them Goldilocks and the Three Bears, because you're teaching them how to steal and how to pilfer people. Don't teach them. Oh, you could read it, but teach them. That's what Goldilocks was, a common thief. She discredited somebody thing. And then don't teach them Hansel and Gretel, because Hansel and Gretel were young murderers, right? So we want to teach our children good stories, right, that they can get moral lessons from. And even if you're watching the cartoons with them, teach them the lessons behind them, right? But give them expose them to good information. There's nothing wrong if they read. It's not boring if they get Superbook has a 3D cartoons that teaches you stories about David and Goliath and so many other different Bible stories. So change the device or change a program on the device that you're giving your children. Stimulate their mind. Let them learn your language. Let them learn how to read properly. Let them learn how to do maths well. Use the gadget to empower your children. Let them learn something that they can make with their hands, and they can monetize it, right? Let them go outside and play with marble and marbles and cricket and football. Let them go out in the environment, right? So Sadie, Jenny, give your last, just a word of encouragement to the mothers out there, the parents out there that are young parents as well.
To the mothers.
Somebody said they believe they're in tears right now. Thank you, Daya. Abri Daya.
To the mothers and the fathers and the grandparents, the aunties, the uncles, because sometimes mother's not there and everybody, different person has to pick up the role. I just want to let you guys know, don't quit, don't give up, keep going, and try to turn things around for the better. Bring them to church, do Bible studies, watch more positive things, Take away the tablet, bring them in the kitchen. Even if you're cooking rice and saltfish, bring them in the kitchen, let them learn that, because at the end of the day, you're growing up children that you want, to have respect and authority and, do things that will make you proud and, make you feel happy about them. So try your best not to have them in the tablet too much, take them away from the internet, the Facebook, the YouTube and all these things, get them away from that, monitor them, check their school bags, do little things, go to the school, call the teacher, find out, what they're doing and what's going on in school, because sometimes they're doing all kind of crazy stuff in school, but the school just didn't reach out to you. So my thing is, pray with them and love on them and don't give up.
Great tips. Jenny?
My final words of encouragement to parents, guardians, whoever it is that's in care, has a child in your care or children, I just want to encourage you to love your child or children. And sometimes we may say, you show love in different ways, but don't just, at least let them know that you love them. Don't let them have to go out there and somebody else telling them I love you and they think that's what love is. You understand? And have conversations with your children. When they come home, ask them how was school, what you did today. Because sometimes something may happen and they may forget to tell you about it. But when you start off like that, they'd feel comfortable. I can talk to mommy, I can talk to daddy. And even the single parents, I know sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's hard. But let us let us go back to basics where we teach our children about God. Even there are some that may be more fortunate than others. Teach the children that, we have this because of God. Because a lot of children, well, my mommy rich or my daddy rich or my parents have money or whatever it is, and you make them think that these are the reasons apart from God that we have what we have. So, teach them that, yes, mommy and daddy has this, but God is our source. God is our provider. Teach them to pray. Don't say they're too young to pray. They can learn an entire soca song and all of these songs. Yep. Teach them to pray. Give them that foundation, give them that root in Christ so that they will know when they end up in situations, they can turn to God. And sometimes you may not be around, but because of what you have instilled in them, then they have the knowledge to know, let me pray in this situation, or let me make this wise decision instead of just doing what my friends are doing. Teach them who they are. Speak positively about and over your children. Don't tell them they're stupid and all of these things. If they make a mistake, say, this is not the right way, but this is how you do it. Don't ask them if there is a stupidity. You understand? Because what you say to children, it affects them. You understand? So sometimes they go in school, and sometimes you're telling them at home, and then they go in school and somebody else tell them you're a stupidity. They'll think that's who they are because mommy telling me that, my friend telling me that. So that's teach them who they are. To bring them back to God, let them find solace in God, because once you find yourself in God, you'll know who you are. So you don't have to depend on anybody to validate you or to tell you who you are, but you'll know who you are. Once they know who they are, once they are in Christ, they'll know who they are. So bring your children back to that point where God is the foundation. They put God first in everything that they do, and then we'll have a better generation. We'll have better children. You understand? Because a lot of children they don't know about God. And if we fear God, as the word said, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So if we fear God, we'll see a change. We need to go back to basics, go back, repent, and cry out to God. He's faithful and he's just to forgive us of all unrighteousness. But instill these biblical teachings and all of that in your children, so that they'll know who they are and they won't depend on the world. Like a young artist, gospel artist said in Jamaica, go back to the manufacturer and you'll know what to do with the product.
Telling me now. This is well said, well said, well said. My goodness. I can sit and listen to you for the whole day, y'all. Y'all have done a fantastic job. I'm so proud of you. And parents, you heard it from young people. You could say, well, we old school, but you heard it from young people, giving those good advice. I think that's the last comment from Paul there. And we just going to take that when we come to end. We have to rush out of the studio today. We have to go to one of our churches having an anniversary celebration this evening, started from yesterday. So we're going to go join with them. That's the Prophet Sanctuary up in Windsor Forest. There they're having their week of anniversary service. Yesterday it started, Wednesday, then today, tomorrow night, and then on Sunday they're going to be climaxing. So we want to send out a clarion call to support the Prophet Sanctuary IPA Church there in Windsor Forest. So Jenny, it's your task to read the comments now, and then we are going to say goodbye to our audience. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this comment says, be more involved in what is going on in every area. Foundation is the word of God. Well done, Jenny and Sadie. Well done, Bishop. We, with and for your children, supposed to be pray?
Yeah.
Pray with and for your children. Love them, tell them verbally as well. Yes.
Nice. And just a summary of what you were saying, said there, Jenny, pray with them and teach them the word of God. Transmit that to your children, to the next generation, as the Deuteronomy chapter has encouraged us. So, folks, we want to say thank you so much for spending this last hour and some with us today. We really appreciate you that you're coming on the helpline with us to, just to talk over our nation and to speak into the lives of the next generation. We will continue with this program of the next generation, because we want to make sure that we live in a society where when we have gone in age, that the next generation still will have the values that we have inculcated in them. So on behalf of this Threshing Floor Helpline and the entire IPA family, we want to say thank you to all of you, and we want to say have yourself a wonderful weekend. Right, the rest of the week, but a wonderful weekend as we celebrate or continue to celebrate 50 years as an independent nation. So the Lord bless you. Thank you again, Sadie. Thank you, Jenny. It's an absolute pleasure. We'll be seeing those two faces very, very often on this station from now on. But the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and grant you his peace.
Thank you to everybody that was locked in and listened. Thank you for the comments.
Blessed night. Bye.
Bye.